Alright everyone, we start off today with the startling admission from CNN, link in the description, archived of course, keeping in mind that CNN literally takes its economic news marching orders in part from the Biden White House. This was bragged about early this particular year. Now they're saying, well, it's not a matter of if we fall into a recession, it's really only a matter of when that happens. I would like to point out that this is butt covering by CNN to try to look like they actually give a damn about real economic news. The recession is already here, not just in the United States, but in much of Europe and elsewhere. You already have recessionary conditions. 2 straight quarters in a row of lower GDP is the typical hallmark of a recession. That's typically, in the colloquial usage of the term, how that is determined. When the Biden admin comes out and covers its ass and says, but we have low unemployment and all of these other economic things are going well, which they're not, generally speaking. You've got inflation ahead of wages. You now have an uptick in unemployment. We'll see if that holds true for the subsequent month. You have low labor force participation, although it improved somewhat over the last few months. And now you have a potential housing crisis and banking crisis incoming. God damn, the writing has been on the wall now for months. People are taking out credit lines to buy groceries and to buy gas because Bidenomics is an abysmal failure. But CNN is doing this specifically because they don't want to be caught with their pants down when the recession is announced. I think they assume that Q3 is going to be negative as well, and we'll be getting those numbers in a couple of weeks probably. And so they want to be able to say, oh, we saw this coming. We have the gift of foresight. You know, like reasonable people did literally before the Biden stewardship even began. I warned that a recession would probably begin, at least a major economic downturn. I think that I was right. It was interesting to see all the nerds at CNN and all the Paul Krugmans of the world say that we were going to enter a golden age. Now that evil Trump is gone, the economy will soar. People will once again have faith in their government. Look at the bond market right now. If you don't believe us, you stupid lemmings, please invest. Please lose everything so that the rich third and fourth homers can gobble up your property, or that BlackRock can grab your house. Maybe Vanguard will offer 5% over spot and BlackRock offers 7%. Well, you know who you're going with, I suppose. Nobody else is going to be buying. We've got all sorts of crises impending. We have a foreshock of a major world banking crisis with Deutsche Bank, with Credit Suisse. Or Swiss. Not sure which way it's pronounced. Of course, I'm a Vermonter. I have that problem sometimes. You have a housing market cool down, which is precipitous in nature. The Fed keeps raising interest rates because it has to do something against inflation. You might be able to stymie that. It appears to have made the inflation linear. That's better than it outright growing month over month when you're already using previous year's inflated numbers, so there's that. They'll have to do a lot more before they actually make it go truly linear. Typically, it would be linear if it were at 0% or pacing wage growth. That would be linear. It's well ahead of that still. People are still losing their purchasing power unless they happen to be yachting, unless they happen to be super rich. But it is interesting to watch them admit that it is at least inevitable, even if the inevitability is already there because you're already in it. It's an attempt to cover their butts. This shows me that there's been a shift in the legacy media, at least insofar as CNN is concerned. I think that they were hoping beyond hope that the numbers would get better before the midterms for the Bidenomic situation that's going on right now in the United States. Then they looked over the last month or so at all the data that they had access to, and some of it I'm sure came directly from the White House, and they said it's not getting better. It's either stagnant or it's getting worse. Clearly, you're going to have a recession officially declared at some point in the immediate future. You're going to have higher unemployment. They're now saying 7% might be the mark that it hits because of the Fed's actions. Biden wisely deciding to play the long game, and earlier this year saying that his idea of how to fight inflation was to let the Fed do its job. Nice buck passing, Biden. You have nothing to do with the economy except when the gas prices are falling. Speaking of which, they're not universally falling anymore. It appears that it's more of a linear game there. In some cases, it's actually going back up. We'll see what happens with that, of course, with Nord Stream gone and the energy crisis, partially homegrown in the United States because Biden doesn't want to pump anything out of the ground because that means he won't be able to force people into living in the pod and trying to use EVs and carpools. We'll see what happens, but I have a feeling CNN got the inside scoop. The timing's not coincidental. You're going to get those third quarter numbers being compiled. It's October now. Do you think that it's coincidental timing that all of a sudden they admit the inevitability of recession? They're not even saying possibility. They're not mincing words here. They know that it's here. They know that we're already in one. And they don't want to play the hindsight is 2020 game. They want their moron readers to still trust them in their economic news. Again, let me reiterate this. Oliver Darcy himself from CNN, one of the most powerful people in the goddamn news industry, openly bragged more than 6 months ago about the fact that the White House was emailing with them constantly, and they were having meetings together trying to spin economic news to calm people down. Now, part of this, by the way, I'll say this in full admission, part of that's not even negative propaganda. If people get all panicky, that can cause a self-fulfilling prophecy within an economy because it lowers consumer and business confidence. Attempting to control the narrative in a more positive direction, in my opinion, is fine, except when it is an outright denial of reality. That's what we've been seeing since the spring. We've been seeing an outright denial of the reality of the weakness and frailty of the U.S. economy, partially based on federal policy, partially based on prolonged damage from lockdownerism. I don't see that in Europe. Netherlands just released its inflation report. It's at 17%. All of the German banksters and politicians are saying we're entering recession. And it's going to be a fairly steep one, so buckle up for this fucking winter. Yeah, the price of energy in the Netherlands, which isn't even the main importation valve as far as the pipelines go, is up over 100% year over year. Over 100 fucking percent. I don't think that the Dutch people's wages rose that much, though. I think that it lags a little bit behind. And this is partially to do with U.S. energy policy and partially to do with Ukraine and many other factors as well. If everything comes together at this particular critical moment in time, if you see the economy begin to melt down throughout October, the October surprise will be that the Democrats severely underperform. I'm going to be separately analyzing what's happening in Nevada. It looks like the Republicans are going to pull away with an extra gubernatorial and Senate seat. If we consider Herschel Walker v. Warnock to be 50-50, that's it for the Senate. The Dems will not manage to hold it. The Republicans will, as I predicted, pick up at least one seat. It could be 2 or 3, actually, based on what I'm seeing in new polling. As far as the gubernatorial slots, I already favor them to get 2. It might be 3 as well. That's called a red wave. It would be a repudiation of the current economic situation more than literally anything else. And that is the major issue. Of the 5 major issues on people's mind coming into the U.S. midterms, the economy rules 3 of them directly or indirectly. Then you've also got crime in the border, and then you've got abortion as the 6th issue, essentially. Education is higher than Roe v. Wade on people's minds. Now you've got CNN throwing the Bidenomics situation under the bus and saying, well, yeah, we're going to enter a recession. It's just a matter of when that happens and how deep it is. Well, it's already there. Right now, it's a shallow recession. We should be thanking our lucky stars. Thank you, Joe. The recession that's been technically there since the beginning of the year is only at the moment a mild one and doesn't yet contain stagflation. If the dude doesn't go full Jimmy Carter meltdown right before the midterms, the Democrats will be breathing a sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness. Unemployment only ticked up by 0.3. Thank goodness the real bad economic news will happen after November. That's about all. Peace out.